moderator is a lawyer by day. He has practiced law for 25 years. As a student at Notre Dame High School, he was part of the debate team. He went on to Kalamazoo College to be a theater major. There, he won Best Supporting Actor for the role Dirty Old Man in William Ing's play Picnic. Can you believe that? Our moderator got his start on WYMURAM 1310 and is now the current host, as you probably all know, on Let It Rip on Fox 2 News. He appears on WWJ News Radio 950 as a legal analyst. Our moderator has won 4 Emmys and 3 Wade McCree Jr. Awards. He has interviewed many important people like Rosa Parks, Charlton Heston, Johnny Cochran, and Barney the Dinosaur. So, to properly introduce him, I will not sing the Barney song. So you can all applaud, trust me, trust me. So please welcome Charlie Langston.
They get that dirty old man comment. I thought I changed that way back when. How's everybody doing tonight? Well, it looks like whoever wins this debate perhaps will be the next member of Congress. Does that make sense? There is a Democrat in the race, I guess, right? No, someone said no. All right, hey, thank you for coming. Purpose of tonight is to see if we can distinguish the differences between these candidates. All right, we'll do a series. They'll give an opening statement. We'll ask some questions for our panelists, and we'll just kind of let it rip, as they say on Fox 2. I've heard that before. Let me introduce first the panelists that'll be asking the questions, and I'm just going to go right through them. No big order here. Let's bring out he's run for office a number of times, former state rep, Rocky Ruskowski. Rocky, come on out. A political commentator. You can hear him every day on WOMC. Jim Johnson. JJ, come on over here. Let's bring some rock and roll to this event. He was formerly with the Detroit News editorial board. Now he's writing for Auto and a lot of things in the Detroit News. Henry Payne is here. And a political commentator. She knows all things politics. Kathy Hoekstra. Come on, Kathy. All right, I'm going to introduce the candidates right now. You guys know who they are. I'm not going to give big introductions because I'm sure they'll do that during this debate. First of all, Representative Tony Forlini. Tony, come on in. Air Force veteran David Van Asch. Come on in, David. All right, businessman Paul Mitchell. Come on, Paul Mitchell. Former State Senator Alan Sanborn. And current State Senator Phil Pavlov. All right. Gentlemen, have a seat, please. Thank you so much. I'll remind the candidates, and I'll remind the audience, we want to have a nice debate. If you, how do I say this nicely there? Just keep your enthusiasm to a little bit of a minimum. Let them go. But if you like something they say, it's okay to politely clap, but let's keep it good. Let's keep it nice today. All right. Candidates, the order, here's how we're going to do it today. They'll each get an opening statement. Then we'll have questions and answers from the panelists, and then each candidate will get a closing statement. Everything is timed. Timekeeper, hi, timekeeper. Hold up that card when you've got something there. What does that mean?
You're almost done.
How many seconds do they have when that yellow card is up?
45.
How much?
45.
When they have 45 seconds left?
15.
When they've talked for 45. Got it. Gotcha. Red means stop. Okay? We all got the rules here? All right. Let's have a good debate. The opening statements, everything was chosen by lot. Questions were made about a half hour ago. Nobody knows the questions. I don't even know the questions. And the first person to give an opening statement right now, Representative Tony Forlini.
Thank you, Charlie. And thank you, everyone, for coming, and Palazzo Grande for donating the room. This is by far the best event we've had, and this is, I think, our 5th forum together. But thanks for coming. Why am I believe, the most qualified? I've been a business owner for the last 32 years, and I've been in business budgeting people's assets. Now, today, I'm running for Congress because I like to do the same thing. We have a problem. As a township supervisor, I had to balance a budget and made it work every year. As a state representative, I was part of the appropriation team that helped fix the budget 5.5 years ago. And we want to take that same message to Washington because with over $19 trillion of debt, we got to fix it, and we got to fix it now.
Thank you, Tony Ferlini. David Van Ash.
Thank you, Charlie. My name is David Van Ash, running for Michigan's 10th Congressional District. Let me first start out by saying I'm made in Detroit and pure Michigan. Not every candidate up here can say that. I was born and raised in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. I come from very humble beginnings, youngest of 5 children. At an early age, I had to learn what hard work and discipline is. I want to serve our country, so when I graduated from Lakeshore High School, same high school as Candace Miller, in 1987, I joined the Air Force. I went from E-1 to Air Force 1 over a span of 27 years. While I was in the Air Force, I managed several multi-million-dollar programs for the Air Force, saved taxpayers millions of dollars, as written in my officer performance report. My last 5 years, I spent at Air Force 1 as the Chief Mission Director. What that meant is I planned, led, and directed every one of the President's trips, to include when he went into Afghanistan, and less than 20 people in the whole world knew that trip was going to happen. When I retired in January of 15, I moved back home. Home's where my heart is. I took a small high-tech renewable energy company from a startup to a multi-million-dollar company in less than 18 months, say 70 jobs going overseas to China. What's most important in hurting our country today is national security and the economy, and I have extensive leadership and experience.
All right, you're not ready for the Senate. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Mr. Van Ash. Okay, next. Paul Mitchell. Thanks, David.
Hi, I'm Paul Mitchell, and I want to thank the Palazzo Grande, the panelists, and the party for making this opportunity for all of us to talk about our qualifications and to talk about the issues that face this country, because they're serious. I think I'm a unique candidate in that I've spent 35 years helping adults get skills to get a job, support their families, and grow the economy. That's what I've done with my life. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I retired in 2011. I want to talk more about those qualifications as we go through this debate. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about is some of the political elite want to talk about that we should have a debate with only a couple people or 3 people, and we should disregard some of their candidates. Everyone on this stage tonight has earned the right to be here. They've earned the right to be here. They collected petitions. They've been all over the district campaigning. We need to continue to allow them, to support them in doing that. I respect them. One of the problems we have in this country is a lack of respect for people, and we saw what happened in Dallas when it goes to an extreme.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Alan Sanborn.
Hello, I'm former Senator Alan Sanborn. I represented the Macomb County area, at least 400,000 of them, during my time in the Senate and the House. And I'm proud to say that my family has lived, worked, and farmed in the 10th Congressional District since 1832, before Michigan was a state. People ask me all the time why I'd want to return to politics, because I left the Senate 5 years ago to return to my job in law enforcement. And I tell them 2 reasons. Number 1, I love my country. And number 2, I no longer recognize my country. It sure has changed in the last 5 years, and I guess I'm too old to go to war, so I want to go fight for you in Congress. And it's an honor to be here tonight at the Palazzo Grande, joined by the people that I represented for 13 years in the House and Senate. I was A+ rated by the NRA, 100% pro-life, and never voted. I'm the only one that can say I never voted for a tax increase.
Thank you. Mr. Sanborn, all right. Phil Kozloff.
Well, thank you, Charlie, and thank you, everyone, for showing up tonight. You know, when our great Congresswoman Candace Miller decided that she was going to retire from Congress, it opened up a great opportunity for the 5 of us to enter the race. And the last 16 months for me has been so exciting. The one thing I've learned from being on the campaign trail is you guys are here for a reason. And it's because you believe you don't have a voice in what government has to say today. And your demonstration today, putting 400 or 500 people in here, hats off to Jared and the Macomb GOP for pulling such a great crowd together. I'm looking forward to the questions from our panelists. And, you know, the next 3 weeks are going to be very exciting. And I hope that I have enough message for you tonight to earn your support on August 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. Pavlov. All right, let's start the second element of this debate, the question and answers. Kathy, please ask Mr. Pavlov the first question.
All right, Senator Pavlov, can you hear me? Thank you,
Yes.
gentlemen. At the funeral today of the slain Dallas police officers, President Obama said of race relations in this country, quote, "We know the bias remains." As one of the least diverse districts in the state, how can you, as a member of Congress, improve race relations in our nation?
I'm not convinced that we're the most racially undivided district in the state of Michigan. So I would just say that we all have a responsibility. And I think that there's an opportunity for people to rise above the conversation that's going on. And if we're going to wake up every morning to deaths and shootings and violence, I think this country is in trouble. But I think this is a direction really leading from the Obama administration. And we need leadership in the White House and leadership in Congress to be united and to be able to recognize our differences and honor our differences and celebrate our differences. And unless we can do that, we're going to have a hard time coming together as a country. We are on the edge, and I believe more incidents like Dallas send an opportunity for us to split this country even more. And so we all have a responsibility to be able to come together and rise above that rhetoric.
Thank you, Mr. Pavlov. Mr. Van Ack.
Yeah, I understood your question clearly. You know, 95% of this district is white. But so how you would improve that, it's all really about education. And really, you know, I have to look to the greatest commandment for that. You know, I go to Scripture for a lot of my teachings. You know, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. You know, there's no different races. There's only one race, the human race. There's different ethnicities. And so you acknowledge that, but you embrace that. Being in the military for 27 years allowed me to travel to 45 different countries. And I love experiencing the different cultures and the different people. And so I learned to really embrace different cultures in different walks of life. And so really it's about education, it's about serving them, most importantly, loving them.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ack. Mr. Foley.
Yeah, thanks for the question. This is the number one thing in the media today, and I think this comes down to really a degradation of society, family values. We're seeing situations where police are having a hard time policing, and teachers are having a hard time teaching. It's coming down to we're forgetting where we started from. As far as diversity, I probably represent the most diverse, my current district right now. It's basically 50-50 Democrat-Republican, but I have a significant amount of diversity within my district, and it's not about race. Everyone wants to make this about race. I believe it's really truly about the family values being taken down to the point where we're not respecting one another, we're not respecting rule of law, and when you do that, you got chaos, and that's what we're seeing today is chaos across the country.
Thank you, Mr. Forlini. Mr. Sanborn.
This is a deeply personal issue to me because I spent 23 years in law enforcement and had friends that were a lot of cops. I've known cops that have been killed on the job. So it's deeply personal to me. But one thing I learned, I went to an integrated high school and played sports there. And one thing I learned, and I think it was best summed up just yesterday by Ben Carson, when he said, people have to understand that we're all in this ship together. And if one end of the ship takes on leak and starts taking on water, the whole ship goes down. And we, as a team in the United States, needs to understand the words of Abraham Lincoln. No house divided against itself can stand. And we need to start working together, all races. But it's not just races, because it's more than just races. Veterans' lives matter, and the lives of unborn children matter. So I don't want to hear a double standard.
Thank you, Mr. Sanborn. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you. My oldest son's a police officer, and the night of the events in Dallas, I called him to remind him to put on his vest. He's a detective. To be careful out there. It's a personal issue for me as well. It's hard when your child is a police officer and that's what he wants to do is protect us. I think President Obama is a leading cause of the problem. He's divided this country on race grounds. He's divided this country by class. He's divided this country whether you live in a city, whether you live on a farm. And the reason he does it is he can hopefully build his own coalitions and raise money. So he and the progressives can take control. It's disrespectful of people to put them in categories based upon their race, their class, where they grew up, what they have and don't have. I ran some of the largest welfare to work programs in the country back when welfare to work meant going to work. There were diverse programs in Cleveland, Philadelphia, Savannah, Mobile, Detroit, Grand Rapids. I dealt with diverse staff, diverse population, and I think you deal with people respectfully, it works.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mitchell. JJ, next question to Mr. Van Ash.
First, gentlemen, our party has a new standard bearer, Donald J. Trump. Can I get a pledge of hands? Do you promise, if nominated, that you will support our party's leader, Donald J. Trump?
Absolutely.
Now, I assumed that was the case, but the last leader of our party has started a movement, Never Trump, the Dump Trump movement. Mr. Van Ash, how would you address our fellow Republicans who have vowed to either stay home or write in another candidate's name instead of Donald Trump?
Well, I'd remind them what happened with when Ross Perot entered the race, and so that took away votes from that presidential election. But I would remind people a vote not for Donald Trump is a vote for Hillary Clinton, and we cannot have a criminal, really, who should be indicted running for president of the United States. Being in the military for 27 years, having the highest security clearance in the land, if I was to take my TS computer home, I would not be here as a candidate right now. It's a shame.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ash. Mr. Sanborn.
I think I will be supporting Donald Trump. People are sick and tired of politics as usual. And I think one thing we can all agree on, Donald Trump is not politics as usual. He's going to shake things up. I have been knocking with my wife, Lori, for she's been my wife for 34 years, and she is out there as my campaign manager knocking doors with me every day for the past 16 months. And we hear it. The most common asked question, are you with Donald Trump? I am with Donald Trump. I'll be supporting it. My dad, Charlie, you know Dad, he was a judge, and in the 1950s he was a state legislator. He used to have an expression, I didn't understand it then, I get it now. He'd say, Republicans have a way of dividing up and eating their young. We need to pull together. We're all in the same boat. It's pulling together, gang, and supporting Donald Trump, or you run the risk of having Hillary Clinton, and you better hide your guns, fans.
Thank you, Mr. Sanborn. Mr. Mitchell.
Thanks very much. I think the Dump Trump movement is disrespectful to the voters. Donald Trump had a record number of votes in the primary. He got 47% in the 10th congressional district in this primary. Think about that. He's talked about issues, raised issues to the fore that other people were ducking. He's forced conversation about issues that are important to us. Immigration, our economy, trade agreements, security, a border. Imagine that. And you all know how many politicians would duck that like the plague. The reality is he's forcing people to talk about things they don't want to talk about, and some of the people in the political elite don't like it because they're going to lose power. I saw a poll in the fall that said 80% of the population believe that there's a political class in this country that will do anything to hold power and privilege. That exists in the Republican Party, it exists in the Democratic Party. I would support him, I will appear with him in a campaign. I think Donald Trump can shake things up.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Pavlov.
I think clearly one of the best things that's come out of the Trump movement has been this open conversation about political correctness. We can put that off to the side and we can start worrying about the issues that are affecting everybody. And immigration is one of them, and border security is another one. And the idea that the 10th Congressional District is the second busiest border crossing in North America ought to send shakes down everybody's back, because we have infiltration coming through in my own home community in St. Clair County at the two bridges, the underground tunnels, we have pipelines, we have more risk here, and we finally have a candidate out there who's drawing light to those situations. And look, I'm all for Donald Trump. He's going to sign my bill to eliminate the EPA. He's going to be signing my bills that reform the budget, lower the federal taxes, and start working on the debt in this country. And we all ought to get behind him, because if we don't, you're going to get the leader that you deserve. And imagine 4 to 8 more years of the Clinton administration.
Thank you, Mr. Pavlov. Mr. Ferlini.
You know, we're obviously very united in this approach of keeping Trump and moving forward with Trump. Donald Trump won the primaries. He is our candidate, and we have to get behind him. I sometimes hear what's going on, and people don't like what he has to say or how he says it. But he's saying what people are thinking. Everyday people, everyone in this room, are thinking some part of what Donald Trump has said. We need to get back to plain speaking, common sense legislation. And I got to say this, and I said this before, would I have hired, I'm a business owner, would I have hired Barack Obama in my business? I wouldn't have hired him. Would I have hired Hillary Clinton? No, I would not have hired her. Would I have hired Donald Trump? No, he would hire me. So look at it from that stand. He's the CEO, he's going to be leading our country, and we need to get behind him.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fellini. Don't go too far away. Henry Payne, next question to Mr. Fellini.
Mr. Forlini, you're the proud son of immigrants.
I am.
Your website has an inspiring video on it right now in which you and a number of other representatives recite the poem that's on the Statue of Liberty. Part of that poem is, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." If you listen to the rhetoric of Donald Trump today, you may wonder if the Republican Party still believes in that refrain. The Republican Party, since George Bush got 44% of the Hispanic vote in 2004, has gradually seen those numbers go down. Can this party continue to be a pro-immigrant party when it is not attracting the vote of the fastest growing minority immigrant community in this country?
Absolutely. You know, I am a son of an immigrant. My dad came here from Italy. I still remember as a young kid going to drop my dad off to American school. He wasn't learning English, he was learning American. And it was a proud moment when he became an American citizen. But it was work. There was a process. There was a proper process to go through. When people talk about immigrants coming to this country, I embrace immigrants. I always have. But legal immigrants. From my standpoint, anybody else is a trespasser. There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. And the problem we're having is we're not addressing it appropriately. We should be on this situation completely embracing immigrants that come here the right way. If you come here the wrong way, you need to leave. Period.
Thank you, Mr. Fellini. Mr. Pavlov.
You know, whether you're talking about the Hispanic community, we talk about the diversity, the ethnic diversity in this district, the Chaldeans, the Macedonians, the Polish people, the Italians. We are a very diverse district, and they all came here looking for opportunity. The Republicans ought to be able to lead on economic opportunity. Whether you're an immigrant or you were born here for generations, we all need jobs, we all need opportunity, we need a path to prosperity. And so I think you can push that to the side, and if the Republicans mount a serious challenge and put jobs and economy first, safe communities second, we have an opportunity not only to get 44%, but get 64% and 74%. With the proper leadership, we can create permanent majorities. And with that opportunity comes their opportunities to raise families, to grow our economies, and to give us an opportunity to continue on that path to prosperity. It's about jobs and economy.
Thank you, Mr. Pavlov. Mr. Van Ash.
You know, the Republican Party is for immigration. You know, Donald Trump, the presidential candidate, he says, hey, the door is wide open. Just come through the door, not around the door. You know, you have to first remind Americans that we're first a land of law and justice, and these are laws that need to be followed. And so immigration is welcomed here, absolutely. But immigrants, they need to be vetted. You know, it's not just the Hispanic community that's migrating here. It's people from every tongue, tribe, and nation that wants to come here. We're still the greatest country in the world, and for a good reason. And so for that, we need to make sure that the door is open, so the Republican Party is for immigration. So when people say and push back and the Republican Party gets a bad knock on that, I push back because I'm a conservative Republican, and I'm all for immigration. I just want them to come through the door and not around the door.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ash. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Charlie. Trump has said, you're not a nation without a border. And in fact, to a great extent, we're not. For example, almost 500,000 people a year come into this country on a jet plane with a visa and overstay it, and nothing is done about that, nothing whatsoever. Somewhere just short of estimate is 5 million people. So yeah, we've got a problem with the southern border. We have a problem with, potential problem with the border in Port Huron. We have a significant problem with people we have information on. We need to enforce the laws we have now. I've met with Border Patrol, and they said the current policy is catch and release. We have released 60,000 felons in this country because we can't deport them to countries won't take them back. But the law says if they don't take them back, we should refuse to give them away visas. We haven't done it. Again, the Obama administration's failed. One last point I'll make about it. Under no circumstances will I ever vote to give the vote to an illegal immigrant.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Sanborn.
Allow me just one moment to bore you with my genealogy yet again. I'm sorry, honey, but family's been here since 1832, but thank God for the immigrants that have come here. My mother-in-law is here. They came from Fonteggiari, Italy, this last generation, and thank heavens she did, because I've got my beautiful wife, Lori, here. But the problem is, it's an insult to them and all the other people that immigrated here legally to have illegal immigrants be moved to the front of the line with regard to benefits that they are drawing out. Did you know that an illegal immigrant can draw benefits from Social Security after 14 days? That's an outrage. It's an outrage. It's got to be stopped. The first piece of legislation I will introduce will be, if you haven't paid into Social Security, you don't draw out. They're drawing out disability income, $752, food stamps, housing stipend, attention deficit disorder, and so on, bipolar. They're getting stipends for these things. They're bankrupting the system.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sanborn. Don't go too far. Rocky, ask Mr. Sanborn a question.
Senator Sanborn, we've talked about immigration. Let's switch a little bit to a different subject of immigration, the refugee resettlement program. What is your specific proposal on dealing with Middle Eastern refugees, and what specifically would you do to stop the refugee resettlement program and the entitlement benefits that are being paid to refugees that are coming to this country and the state?
And Rocky, it's great to see you again. My brother from the 1990s in the House of Representatives. And one of the problems that we have, and America is the land of opportunity, but when you have people coming from countries that are on terrorist watch lists, like Syria, for example, and they're coming here, and if, say, only 1% of the people with nefarious intent are infiltrating that group, and they come here, then we're going to see a lot more situations like what we've seen in Orlando, Fort Hood, and other terrorist attacks. And what are they going to do? They're going to look for soft targets, like our schools. So we need to watch very closely and monitor the people that are coming in. And frankly, from countries where there are on terrorist watch lists, I think we need to put a stay on it. We need to stop them from coming in until we can properly vet who they are.
Thank you, Mr. Sanborn. Mr. Mitchell.
Thanks very much. My position on refugees is pretty simple. We cannot bring in individuals that are refugees from affected areas. FBI Director Comey, the CIA have all said we don't have information to vet them. You're making a guess. We can't guess with our national security. We cannot bring refugees into this country, and we need to stop it. I'll do everything I can in Congress to do so, withdraw the money for it, pass laws that will prohibit that. Second thing we have to do is provide safe haven for refugees where they're at. Awful lot of polling says that people want to stay there, but they're not safe. We can help do that. We need to support our allies to do that. We need to support them in terms of air cover, in terms of technical assistance, provide enough support so our allies can crush ISIS. That is the problem in the world right now, and we need to deal with it.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Corlini.
And I happen to agree. What a disaster our foreign policy has been over the last 8 years. We've created an environment where people are not safe in other parts of the world. We left Iraq, we left this world in a vacuum where people weren't safe. Iraqi Christians are being persecuted, being slaughtered every day. And what are we doing as a Christian country? Nothing. We are letting them being slaughtered. I agree with the safe zone. We need to provide areas where people can go to so they don't feel as if they're going to get slaughtered. We need to be active in creating this environment so that they have a place, a home, a place they can go call home until things settle out. And it's not bringing them here unvetted, not knowing who's coming into our country. We need to, because they'll infiltrate the bad people into our neighborhoods, and that's not what we want.
Thank you, Mr. Folini. Mr. Van Ash.
I'm definitely not in support of the refugee resettlement program for one reason only. FBI director has definitely went on record and stated that there's no way we can vet these people. You can't trace it back. And ISIS has already said they've already tried to plant people here. So having said that, do we take care of them? Absolutely. You know, a nation with great power and doesn't do anything with it, you know, we should be ashamed. We don't deserve that power. So we do need to work with our allies and provide these safe zones to where some of these refugees can go to different countries that are willing to take them, but not here in the United States, not at this time, not until we can accurately vet them and know who's coming into our country.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ash. Mr. Pavlov.
Well, thank you. I'm the only member on this panel that has sponsored legislation not only to put a halt to the Syrian refugee importation into the state of Michigan, but also put an end to any state revenue sharing going to our sanctuary cities. ISIS has clearly said that they're going to use the